Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and today I have a very fun video for you. So my birthday is the middle of the month, and I thought it would be a lot of fun if I did a book for every year of my life. I'm not doing it like every year. I'm just doing my reading tastes throughout my life. So I did choose 37 books because I'll be 37 this year, and they just kind of represent, what I was reading from when I was little all the way to now. I think this is going to be so fun. I think next year I might do a 37 or 38. I'll be 38 next year. Do 38 books, but choose books that were published each year I was alive. I think that could be a lot of fun. But today is just all the books that I've been obsessed with my whole life. So I will do an honorable mention because I don't have it, but I was obsessed when I was little with the Pokey Little Puppy. Like, I absolutely love the Pokey Little Puppy. And I don't have that one. I would love to get a copy of it, but I thought I would just mention that one because I was obsessed with it when I was little. But the first book we are going to cover, I have vivid memories of being in kindergarten, and we kind of acted out. Not this one. I think we acted out the other book. This one is Polar Bear, What Do You Hear? And I think we acted out Brown Bear, What Do You See? But I remember there was like a pool full of mud. Yeah, I remember kindergarten and doing that. But I had this one because I was obsessed with Polar Bear, What Do You Hear? I didn't have this one that makes the noises, which is fun. But I did have this book, and I might have had Brown Bear too. I have that one over there. But this is by Bill Martin Jr. and Eric Carle. And yeah, I was absolutely obsessed with these when I was little and first going to school. I still think they're really, really cute, and I'm glad I have a copy of this for my little collection. It makes me smile looking at it and seeing it there. The next thing that I was absolutely obsessed with, and I still am, is Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. Again, just another little picture books, but basically you have Max, and he is wild and acting wild, and his mom kind of punishes him, and so he decides he's going to go join the Wild Things. But in the end, he comes back home to his mama. And yeah, my favorite part is they gnash their terrible teeth. I absolutely love that part. And so this is another big one. I love that book so much. When they did the movie, my mom got me the DVD of it. I'm not a huge fan of the movie, but I'm obsessed with the book. Next is not this book specifically. I just happened to have this one because I found it at a thrift store. But it's these books in general, and that is Dr. Seuss. And so this one's One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. And it wasn't this one. I liked Are You My Mother? That's one of my favorites. The Cat in the Hat, of course, is one I had and read all the time. But these are so much fun. And Green Eggs and Ham. I already had that one. I would love to get a hold of Green Eggs and Ham because I did reread that one over and over and over again. So that was also one of my favorites. I think Green Eggs and Ham I loved when I was little, and then as I got older, I liked Are You My Mother? I thought that one was really cute. But Dr. Seuss is, of course, a childhood staple. Another one that I just was obsessed with is The Jacket I Wear in the Snow by Shirley Neitzel, and pictures are by Nancy Winslow Parker. And this is just all about like the item she wears in the snow. I don't know why I was so obsessed with this, but I was. And when I saw it at the thrift store, I was like, I love that as a child. I definitely want a copy of it. And so there's that one. Then we have, of course, one of my obsessions. You can see him back there. But Clifford, this book in particular, Clifford's Halloween, and then also Clifford's Easter, were the two that I vividly remember reading all the time, over and over again. And I've been collecting the Clifford books. So I have a whole stack over there. I'm working on collecting them all because I was absolutely obsessed as a kid, and I would love to have them all and eventually revisit them all as well. So can't go wrong with Clifford. This is another one. I did not have this one. I recently read this one. I found it at a thrift store, but I had several of them as a kid, and that's the Berenstain Bears. This one is the Bear Scouts. I didn't even know this existed until I saw it at a thrift store recently, but the Berenstain Bears in particular, I had a lot of those, and that's by Stan and Jan Berenstain. And yeah, I just had them and I would read them all the time. So I had to include, like I said, I don't have any of them other than this one, which I'm actually going to be unhauling. Because like I said, the Bear Scouts doesn't have any nostalgia value for me or anything like that. And it was cute, but I didn't love it. So I'm going to go ahead and unhaul this, but it represents the series as a whole. And like I said, I had several of them that I just read all the time. This one is a childhood favorite, and I still absolutely love it. Every time my class would go to the library, I would get this book every time. So that is Heckedy Peg by Audrey and Don Wood. Absolutely beautiful artwork. Like, I love the artwork in this, like, so stunning. And this one, basically, you have this mom and she has 7 children that are named after the days of the week. And she ends up going to market, and this witch shows up and turns the children into different foods, and she's going to eat them. And the mom has to guess which child is which food in order to save them. I was obsessed. I was a weird kid for sure. And then this, I used to get like a subscription box. So I would get one of these every time. I ended up getting rid of all of them at some point, and probably when we moved, all of them except one about a horse, because I was horse obsessed. And so I've been recollecting these as well. And that is The Boxcar Children by Gertrude Chandler Warner. And yeah, I would get the subscription box that had these. And these were a big part of my childhood. Absolutely adore these. You have these 4 children who are orphans, and in the beginning they're living in a boxcar until their grandpa comes and finds them. And just, I reread, it might have been this one fairly recently, not super recently, but I did read it and was surprised at how well it was done. Like, it's a children's book, but it's fully fleshed out, which made it really enjoyable as an adult. So I do plan on rereading these at some point as well. So then another one I was absolutely obsessed with. This is actually the second one in the series, but this is the book that I had and was obsessed with and reread all the time. And that is Wayside School is Falling Down by Sachar. And I just obsessed with this one. I got the box set that had all 4 of them in there. I wanted the cover of what I had growing up, but in the end, it's like, better get the box set. But yeah, this is so much fun. It's about this school, and it's just wacky, and like a lot of satire, a lot of humor, and just really enjoyable. It's crazy, and I absolutely was obsessed with it. So basically, you have the school, and it's following this one main class, and there's a lot of like puns, and just, it's a good time. Like, even as an adult, like, I understood a lot of the humor a lot more as an adult. So when I reread these, I really enjoyed it, and I'm actually going to be rereading them again this month, because I've been wanting to, and my birthday month's the perfect month to do it. So another one I absolutely adore. And I had, I think, the second and third one, and then I never read the first or the fourth one until I got them all and reread them. So another one I was obsessed with as a kid, and kind of with Heckedy Peg, I would check this one out a lot, and that is Bunnicula by James Howell. And just Bunnicula. I don't think I read any of the other ones at all until now when I was an adult. But Bunnicula I would read over and over and over again, and obsessed with it. So basically, the narrator is this family dog, and there's also a cat, and this bunny comes in, and there's just something off about the bunny, and the dog's the only one that's suspicious, though. He's like, there's something not right about this bunny. and the vegetables are being drained, and he discovers the bunny is actually a vampire bunny, and he drains the vegetables. So, absolutely love this one. Woo, almost threw it. Then another one, like, would check out, like, well into my teens. I think even as a young adult, I checked this one out, and I would just check it out over and over and over again. I never really read anything else by this author except this book, and that is A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. This is the trilogy. I haven't read the last two. It's actually a quintet. And I haven't read the last two, but I would like to get a hold of them. But I've enjoyed the trilogy, but specifically A Wrinkle in Time. Like I said, I was just obsessed with it and would just check it out over and over and over and over again. And I think I tried to read like one of her other books when I was a little bit older, and it just didn't give me the same satisfaction as A Wrinkle in Time, so I went back to just rereading A Wrinkle in Time. But I absolutely love the series, and specifically that book. I also was very much dog and horse obsessed growing up, and I kind of struggled where to put these because, like, what age was I really obsessed? But it was kind of all through my childhood, and as I got a little older, that's when I kind of became more dog and horse obsessed. So first up, we have Champion Dog Prince Tom by Jean Fritz and Tom Clute. This is actually my stepdad's book, and he gave it to me. And I remember reading this over and over, and it's about this dog and this boy, and he ends up getting all these titles and such. I believe it might be based on a true story too. But yeah, it's definitely old, but there's cute little illustrations in it, and you can see how worn it is. And I just read this all the time. And I do have some other books that were dog related, but this was the one that I would reread a lot. So there's that one. And then we had my horse phase. So this is probably when I was a little bit younger, and I had the Double Diamond Dude Ranch, and this is the first one in the series, Call Me Just Plain Chris. I think there's 6 or 7. I can't remember for sure. And basically she is this tomboy on a ranch, and her name's Crystal, and she's like, just call me Chris. Like, just call me plain Chris. And it's about her on this ranch, and then her friend is like scared of horses and such and is new to town. So that one is a fun series. Like I said, a little bit younger, but I really enjoyed it. Like, at one point they shoot a movie, and it's just a lot of fun. A classic horse one that I think every horse girl probably was obsessed with, Misty of Chincoteague by Margaret Henry. I had not this one, I had like Following Misty's Foal, and obsessed with that one again. And so it wasn't until as an adult that I actually got Misty of Chincoteague, and I haven't actually read it yet, so I really need to fix that. But basically it's about the wild horses on Chincoteague, and you're following the one main horse, and then her foals and such. So really kind of a staple for horse lovers. Another one I was obsessed with as a kid, I would just read it over and over, is Sweetgrass by Jan Hudson. And this follows a Native American girl, kind of her coming of age, and then also they get like smallpox, like the smallpox wipes through, or comes through and wipes out the tribe basically. And so her trying to keep things together, help her family, like take care of them and such during that time. And then also, that coming of age aspect, and she has a crush on a boy and is hoping that they'll be married and such. So a lot of fun. I love that one still. Another one, this is a specific book I had as a kid, and it's actually from my childhood, but just the series in general again, and that's the Dear America series, another series I've been collecting. This one I had is My Heart is on the Ground, The Diary of Nanny Little Rose, a Sioux Girl, Carlisle Indian School, Pennsylvania, 1880. So again, the Native American, I really enjoyed like Native American stories and such. And so this is one of the Dear Americas from my childhood. I only had one other that I still had from my childhood. I'm pretty sure I had more than that, but who knows what happened to them. Another one that's kind of a childhood staple is Little House in the Big Woods by Laura Ingalls Wilder, so the Little House on the Prairie books. My sister had the set and then gave them to me. They were damaged pretty badly, and there was like 2 missing. I found a matching set at the thrift store. I was like, I'm buying that. I do really want to reread these this winter. I think they're perfect for winter, so I'm hoping I can reread them then. I've read like one of them, but I haven't reread the series in full, so I would love to do that. And I also have good memories of these ones because when my nieces were little, I used to read these to them as bedtime stories, and I would try to do like little accents and such. So I have fond memories of that as well. Then back to my horse obsession. One of the other big series that I was obsessed with was the Thoroughbred series. This is kind of a prequel to the series. This is Ashley's diary, so it's kind of before the main series. Um, and I only got up to a certain point, and then when it kind of switched from Ashley to another character, I wasn't as big of a fan, and I didn't continue the series. So I have all the books up to that point, and then I think I have another one that I just found that's like later on in the series. But another one I absolutely love. Basically, their family had a breeding farm, and then an illness goes through and wipes out a bunch of their stock, and so they end up going to working for a racehorse operation, and so her parents are the breeders there, and then her goal is to become a jockey and race, and yeah, another series I was just obsessed with. This next one's technically a children's book, so I probably should have put it lower on the list, but I didn't find it until I was a teenager, and that's when I was obsessed, so that's why I put it here. And that is The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by John Suess. And again, it's a picture book, but it's basically the wolf's point of view and how he wasn't trying to eat the three little pigs. He was just trying to borrow sugar so he could make his granny a birthday cake, but he had a cold. And it's just funny. It's satire. It's a lot of fun. I absolutely love that book as well. Then we're getting kind of when I was a little bit older, so going in my teenage years, I started kind of getting into more like darker books. This one, Vittorio the Vampire by Anne Rice, you can see it's kind of in rough shape. This is one that I had on my shelves, and I remember reading it as a young teen. And it's just kind of stuck with me. I never really read anything else by Anne Rice. I do have some other, my husband had like the original Vampire Chronicle books, and I have her Wolf's Gift book somewhere. But yeah, this is the one I had as a teen that I remember reading as a teen, and kind of my first little bit darker book that I read. We also had Arlstein Goodnight Kiss. This has Goodnight Kiss 1 and 2, and this one I reread all the time. It has some other Arlstein books, some Christopher Pike that my sister had given me, but this is the one that I remember being obsessed with and just reading over and over again. So those are kind of the darker ones that I had. I also had some school books that I really stuck with me. And this one I read in school, absolutely loved it, stuck with me, and I hadn't reread it until recently, and that's To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I really enjoyed rereading this one because I definitely had a different perspective as an adult than what I had as a kid. As a kid, I kind of have that spooky, they have that spooky neighbor and just their childhood and such, where as an adult I was able to understand kind of the racial and political issues that was going on. And so yeah, I love that one, had to include that. The one from my school days though that I was absolutely obsessed with and still to this day am, which is why I put it a little later, is The Giver by Lois Lowry. Fantastic book, absolutely love it. So basically you have Jonas, and his world is like the ideal community. They pair people up, they assign them jobs. They have women who have babies, but the babies are assigned to families. And everything's black and white, and then the giver is the one that holds the memories. And so he's giving them to Jonas, and Jonas is realizing like this place isn't as ideal as it seems, essentially. And like I said, I've read that throughout the years, from when I was a child and many times in my adulthood as well. So next, this series holds a special place in my heart. So it was right after 9/11, my birthday, things at home fell apart. And we were actually in a hotel that year for my birthday. And remember, it was a Friday. My mom said I didn't have to go to school, and she took me to the bookstore, and I got like several of these. And I remember being in the hotel room and reading them, and it just kind of, helped take my mind off things. And I love the show, and that is Heartland. This one is the first one in the series, Coming Home, but there's 20 books in the series. I don't know how many I read as a kid, probably through like the first 8 to 10, I would say, is what I got through. And then I picked up a few more and reread up to that point, but I didn't have the last like 5 or so. There's 20 books plus 5 more special editions, which I had never read the special editions. So now I have them all, and I'm actually going to be rereading these this month as well. The whole series, though, rereading and then reading the ones that I never did read. But yeah, like obviously that was a difficult time, and these books I was able to dive into them. Basically, you have Amy and her mother kind of rehabilitates horses, and they go on this rescue and get in an accident, and her mom ends up passing away. And so now Amy's having to kind of keep her mother's legacy alive and also struggle with her grief and trauma and such. The show is very different. This is more like English style, like Hunter Jumper and such, where the show is more like Western style, but I absolutely love each of them for what they are. The books only go through when Amy graduates high school, and then the special editions cover her college years a little bit, where the show is obviously way past that at this point. They're on season 18. I've been rewatching I've been watching season 16 and 17 because I was 2 seasons behind, so I've been watching those recently. And yeah, absolutely obsessed with this series, and I have those fond memories. Obviously a difficult time, but remembering, reading these books and such. So next is this book's falling apart. I have a different copy, but I thought I would show you this one because I kept it, because just memories. This was what started my Nora Roberts obsession, and you can see it's completely falling apart, but that is Chesapeake Blue. And this is actually the 4th book in a series, but there was like a little library. We were living in a trailer park at the time, and there was this little library that would come through, but they would give you free books. And this is one I picked up and started my obsession with Nora Roberts. And so this basically is following 4 brothers, but the 3 older brothers, who are the beginning of the series covers their stories, are raising Seth, who is the main character of this story, and then it's kind of their love stories and such. But they all were adopted. They're all kind of troubled. And so I absolutely love the series. And yeah, you can see this was well loved or not so well loved, depending on your viewpoint. But yeah, that started my obsession. My sister got me started on this author, and I forget the series. I'll try to include it here, like list the name of it and maybe a picture of the first book or something. But that's what she read, and she, gave them to me to read. And then I don't have that series. I would love to get it though. But I became obsessed, and that is V.C. Andrews. This one is Orphans. And so it has Butterfly, Crystal, Brook, and Raven. And this is just one that I reread several times. There's others over there that I've reread, and kind of darker, a little bit more depressing. But yeah, an author that I've really enjoyed and kind of represented again when I was getting a little bit older, reading a little bit darker, more mature things. So there's that one. Then, of course, we were working with horses and my horse obsession. This is a book that my mom and I would read. And there's also another one Good Horse is Never a Bad Color or something. I don't really remember. I'll try to insert a picture. But the first one is Considering the Horse, and this is by Mark Rashid, or Rashid. Tells a problem solved and lessons learned. So just about him working with these different horses and such. And we had several of these types of books. This one's in a little bit rough shape as well. But yeah, this is kind of Mom and I in our time working with the horses and such. We would read these types of books. I remember going to like the feed store and looking for books and picking like this type of book up. So absolutely love that. And then of course, you know, the craze. This was when I was still in my teen years, I believe. Might have been like late teens. 2005. So yeah, and that is Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. I wasn't obsessed with these books, but I did of course read them all, and I've seen the movies and such, and so it's just, you know, one of those books that was around, and I definitely have the whole set. I've never reread them, mainly because of the second book in the series I'm not a fan of, and so I'm like, I could not imagine rereading that one. But yeah, the kind of cult classic there, so there's that one. Then we have another Nora Roberts one. This is just one, like, I mean, I could include them all, but this is my favorite Nora Roberts book, so I wanted to include it here as well. And again, you can see it's kind of falling apart, and that's Three Fates. And this one, it's nice. I love this one because it's like her trilogies, but all combined into one book. So you have these three siblings, and their ancestor was a thief, and the Lusitania, um, shipwrecked. Their ancestor was on that and stole a little idol that was one of the three fates. And so it's kind of like this myth in the antiques circle, but they have it, and the one brother ends up getting duped by our protagonist in here, and she ends up stealing it, but of course he can't prove anything, and his ancestor stole it in the first place. And so it's just following them trying to get the idol back and such. And then of course their different love interests as well, and so they go, you know, from Ireland to the US to I think like Prague or somewhere. I don't know, they're going all over the place though, so it has a little bit of the historical component, and then also like her suspense and that romance element that I absolutely love. Another author, not officer, author. I've read several of the books. I ended up collecting a lot of her books, not a lot of like her like romance collection, because she started off as a romance author, but like all her later books I have now, minus I think there's a couple new ones. And that's Iris Johansen. I remember when we would go to the store, if she had a new book, I would just pick it up. I particularly like the book she wrote with her son, Roy Johansen. But I picked this one, Pandora's Daughter, because this is one that's kind of stuck out in my mind. So Megan Blair like hears voices in her head, but they've been dormant, and now someone is trying to kill her, and I don't know, it's just always a lot of suspense and such, but this one's kind of stuck in my head a little bit, so there's that one. Then this one I put a little later again, probably should have been a little bit earlier, but I've been rereading them this year, and I watch the movies frequently, so I just wanted to put it a little bit later since I've been rereading them recently. And that's of course the Harry Potter books. This is the first one, The Sorcerer's Stone, but I'm actually going to be reading the 7th one in September. I've reread all of them up to number 7, so I'll be rereading that one this month. But again, childhood classic, and this one's not my childhood copy because my nieces destroyed my childhood copy, but otherwise all the rest of them are my childhood copy. And just the nostalgia from these books, like I've reread them so many times, seen the movie so many times, like they're just a very much a comfort read for me, and very familiar and very nostalgic. So there's that one. Now we're getting kind of into the books that are more recent. And first I wanted to include Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, for two reasons. I love water horror, and I never thought to read water horror. And then I did this for a readathon I was participating in. It was like a host favorite or something, and I picked this one up. And I was like, how have I never read water horror before? Like, what's wrong with me? Because I love watching water horror. And so, yeah, this was kind of my first delve into water horror. And then it also has autistic rep, which really represents kind of my journey now as well. I like seeing that kind of neurodivergent or autistic rep in books. I'm finding I really enjoy that. It gives me something to relate to. I'm only been diagnosed like 3 years now. I want to say I'm going on 3 years. And so, that's been a journey in itself. And so seeing that representation in books has been fantastic, and I actually have some more that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, the water horror, why I never thought to read water horror. I've read a couple others and loved them as well. And so definitely a subgenre I'm going to be diving more into. Then this one, again, is kind of from my childhood. I read it as a teen, but I've been rereading it every year since I started my channel, and that's My Sergei, A Love Story by Ekaterina Gordieva, with E.M. Swift, and this is about the Pears couple, so Ekaterina Gordieva and her husband Sergei, who passed away suddenly quite young, and just their love story. But it's so much more than that too. Like, it's really a coming of age story and about womanhood, and it's just beautiful. And I reread it every year. It reminds me of my mom because this was her favorite Pears couple. She had me read it when I was a teenager, and I remember reading it and I was bawling, and she comes in and I just finished it and I was all red faced, and she's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "That stupid book you have to read." I was just so upset. And I hadn't read it until, like I said, I started my YouTube channel, and then I've reread it every year since, and each time I get something a little bit different out of it, and I absolutely love it, obsessed with it, and it reminds me of my mama, so that's always good. Kind of going back to my autism journey, I have been participating in Autism Reads, which is put on by Christine at An Autistic Reader. We recently read Good Different by Meg Eden Kuyat. This is actually a middle grade, and it's told in verse, which I typically do not like poetry or things told in verse. I love this one. This is my favorite of all the books we've read. And it literally starts off that she had her meltdown. The first time she broke down in front of anyone was in the middle of the evil place, Walmart. And my husband and I literally call it Hellmart because I get very overstimulated there. I really struggle. And so I connected with that right away. It really took me back to when I was young. I mean, I'm recently diagnosed. I'm late diagnosed. But I remember the struggles of 7th grade and growing up and such. So it took me back there, but I could also relate to a lot of it even today. And so that one is definitely a good representation. And I love participating in Autism Reads and reading books by autistic authors and supporting them as well. This one is one of my favorites that I've read recently, and it also kind of has a nostalgic factor to it. I never read it until a few months ago, but that's Walk on Earth, a Stranger by Ray Carson. The reason it has that nostalgic factor is our main character is basically going on the Oregon Trail, and I played that game like every time you went to computer lab, you played that game, and just constant, like a staple of my childhood. And it had that component. It literally felt like the game in book form. And so you're following this character. She can sense gold. And so they're actually going to California, not Oregon, but the trail was the same until a certain point. And yeah, it had that feel of the game, and so I just loved it. It was that game of my childhood in a book form, and I was just obsessed with this, and so it's been one of my recent reads that, again, I like kind of like, yes, it wasn't a book I've read before, but it still had that nostalgic feel, which I'm finding I really enjoy that. So next we have another one. These last two are authors that, I read like the same authors for so long, like Nora Roberts, Iris Johansen, reread like the Harry Potter books and such. And so branching out and trying new authors, these are two authors I found that I really enjoy and authors I'm really enjoying right now. And this next one also has neurodivergent rep. Which again is something that's been part of my journey. And so finding books that represent that has been fantastic. And that's Blade of Secrets by Tricia Levenseller. And this was, I think, my favorite book from last year. And I really enjoyed the second one. It's a duology, but absolutely loved. Like, she really struggles. She has a lot of anxiety, and just really struggles with socialization and such. But you basically have our main character and her sister. The main character is a bladesmith, and she can imbue her blades with magic. She gets commissioned, and she ends up creating the sword, and she is able to steal people's secrets. And she learns that the person she's commissioned for wants to basically take over the kingdom with it. And so she goes on the run with her sister, a missionary, and this like scholar. But like I said, that anxiety rep and that neurodivergent rep really stand out. And I've only read this duology and the Pirate King and Daughter of the Pirate King / Siren Queen, that duology. I've only read those 4 books from this author, but I've really loved the writing, and I have 2 others that I'm going to be reading, and just, like I said, this one in particular is because of that neurodivergent rep. And then the last one is my new current favorite. Like, Nora Roberts always going to be an all-time favorite, but I'm currently obsessed with everything this author's been writing, and that's Carissa Broadbent. This is Daughter of No Worlds, which is the War of Lost Hearts trilogy. This is the first book in that series. The second book is actually my favorite, but just the series as a whole, I absolutely love. I did like the Nightborn duology, which is the first set of duologies in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and the next one in the Crowns of Nyaxia, the next set of duologies. The first one is coming out in November, which I'm going to be picking that one up. And yeah, this is one, I heard some people talking about it on BookTube, and for a while I was kind of resistant to trying books other people were reading on BookTube. I actually found this before she kind of blew up. Samantha from Green Eggs and Sam, who hasn't posted in a very long time. I hope she's all right. I know she was having some trouble with her neck and such, but she would preach and sing Carissa Broadbent's praises, and I finally gave in, and I'm so glad I did, because I absolutely love it. And so that kind of made me more open to trying, really hyped up books from BookTube. So that's definitely been a part of my journey, but this is my current favorite author. Like, I absolutely love Carissa Broadbent's writing. And there's chunky books. Like, this one's not super bad compared to some of the others. They are chunky books, but they read so quickly. And so, yeah, I love this author. And that is the 37 books from my 37 years, basically, the books from my journey, my life journey in books. So let me know if you've read any of these, if you are interested in reading any of these, what your favorite book from, like, you've read the past years, from childhood maybe. Let me know that down in the comments below. If you don't want to comment and you just want to let me know you were here and support me, you can always leave a rabbit or any type of animal emoji, or since it's my birthday month, you can always wish me a happy birthday by leaving a birthday emoji. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.